Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I'm so glad to be here. I think I'm a little discombobulated today. Things feel chaotic. I seem to have lost my cell phone in another part of the house. When you go from living in a one-bedroom condo for 16 years and really heavily one bedroom, one bathroom, a kitchen I could not eat in. I mean, I could, but but there wasn't like great room for a table or anything. And like an open living room, dining room, which became half living room, half my office. So I lived in that condo for 16 years. I loved it. And I love like the super fun memories of it. And it was plenty of space for me. And now that I've moved, I live in a 3-bedroom house with an eat-in kitchen, and I don't know where anything is. You can't lose things in a one-bedroom condo. When you have 3 bedrooms and a living room and a kitchen that you can eat in and a porch and I don't know. It's very confusing. But I made it. I'm here. I'm on the computer. I'm 5 minutes late to my own live. As I was trying to work out some tech details with my calendar scheduler. And I'm really excited to be here. I love all my topics, right? Like I do this work for a living for a reason, because I love nothing more than being a person who gets to talk about the things I'm passionate about. And I am so passionate about boundaries and burnout and executive life and leader life and corporate life and making it better. And I think that we do so much suffering unnecessarily. There is suffering everywhere. And there is a lot of suffering that we are not able to control in like the global scheme of things, in our lives, in like things that happen to us, the sort of force majeure, if you've ever worked on a contract, which is the like acts of God, acts of God, universe, weather, etc. That just like take us out. People make decisions around us and about us all the time, or about themselves that impact us. But we suffer. We, at some level, whether we are making deliberate choices or we are deliberately not making choices, or whether we're making choices that are just so reactionary that we don't have the brain space to be proactive, or if things just happen to us. There are all kinds of ways that this feeling of suffering occurs and comes to and at us. We exacerbate that by telling ourselves that we are stuck and that there's nothing that we can do. And so today, I'm going to talk really specifically about my story. And I'm going to tell you how I decided to hire a coach. Tomorrow, I'm going to go live tomorrow as well. And I'm going to actually just tell you my story of how I got here into this house. And what's sort of different about 5-6 years ago, Lauren, and today, Lauren. And that'll be tomorrow's topic, is like sort of a compare and contrast years ago Lauren to current Lauren, because I think it's a really relatable story, even though like some of the plot lines are a little bit wonky and wacky. But today I'm going to talk about my personality, my type, my like who I have been at my core, that led me to being so hyper independent and so out of tune with my own stuff, even while I was incredible at helping other people with theirs. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. How I stopped being so hyper independent and actually hired my own coach. And admitted was sort of the first step that I needed a coach, and then embraced that I needed a coach and that I was allowed to have a coach. So my coaching career started in the early 2000s when I moved into HR, somewhere like around 2002, I would say. I moved into HR and I was doing sort of light hiring. And I just happened to really be good at like gathering and understanding processes for hiring, discerning what people should talk about in an interview, resume writing. And so sort of as favors, I would take in people's resumes and started with resume writing and cover letters. Then it developed into like, ooh, can you help me prep for my interview? And that developed into my friend doesn't even know what they want to do for a living. And then as my HR career developed and the depth of my understanding developed and my natural tendency for empathy and humor and strategizing and planning just started to really serve, that I naturally became coachy. And as the years went on, I took it a little bit more and more seriously. I did some coaching internally at all of the jobs that I worked at. And I'd become what I would say is a good coach. So fast forward, I am in my HR career. I am a workaholic to the nth degree. I am living in probably 15th year or so of being in HR, probably 10 plus, 12 plus years of coaching on the side. And I always fit the coaching in on the side because I loved the coaching so much. And so for me, it was like, excuse me, it was like a kicky side gig to be able to coach. And I had created an assumption that I could not coach full time. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But here I was, this hand raiser, I'll do it. Anytime a project came up, anytime there was a team I was allowed to join, anybody asked me to be in the room, absolutely, I'll do it, count me in. My hand went up so automatically because I thrived on being good at stuff, which I think I talk about in like every life. If you're good at being good at stuff, especially at work, it's going to get you. It's going to like drag you in and make you feel so tied to it that you get to a point where it's hard to say no to anything. And saying no is going to be another live that I do down the line. No has become one of my favorite words. It was not always. So here I was working 80 to 100 hours a week, doing a look back every once in a while to see when my last day off had been, because when you work 80 to 100 hours a week pretty consistently, you're not doing it in 5 days a week. There's just not enough time. And so you work 7 days a week or 6 days a week or till midnight, or you wake up at 5 a.m. to finish something that someone needs that day. Lots of workarounds. If you're looking for advice on how to fit 80 to 100 hours a week into your work day or your work week, unfortunately, I could advise you. I won't, though. Awful. 0 stars. Do not recommend. So here I am. I'm this hyper independent, at that point, a department of one, vice president of HR and operations, a department of one, but managing a few departments and interim managing a million departments. And the do you have a minute philosophy that applied to me was, I have all the time in the world for you, whatever you need. Now, do you have a minute in and of itself as its own question, one sentence question, is an awful question because it like instills fear in our hearts, or our stomachs drop, right? Your boss comes in and says, do you have a minute? Or your employee comes in and says, do you have a minute? Or your peer comes in and says, do you have a minute? And you instantly think like, I'm getting in trouble. Somebody got fired. Somebody quit. You're quitting. What are you doing? All of that. So the do you have a minute philosophy doesn't really jag with me. And also in the most recent podcast episode that John Spears and I did, I Could Talk to You All Day. We're on Spotify and all of the other platforms. We talked about the "Do you have a minute?" fear that comes into us. So go listen to that if you have a chance. I Could Talk to You All Day on Spotify and Apple and, etc. So I'm this hyper independent person who can help pretty legitimately anybody with anything. And if you are a high achiever, all my high achievers, raise your hands out there. I can't see you, but I can feel the energy of you raising your hands when I ask if you're a high achiever, when I ask if you're a people pleaser. I feel you. Same. I'm in recovery on all of the things where we just give everybody all of our time and energy. So here I am. I'm working these bonkers hours. At that time, because I was a yes all of the time person, I was also interim managing a department. I had taken on the project of renovating our new office space that we were moving to. And then the pandemic broke out, and HR was the place to go for pandemic news and shutdowns and safety and all of that. And so I came into a time when I was recovering from an injury, which did lead into that. And when I tell you the story of how I got into this house tomorrow from the accident forward, you will understand the path, right? And I'm going to tell that in a really fun way. I'm going to tell you the backwards story of how I'm sitting in this seat right now. But so here I am. I'm hyper independent. I don't need nobody's help with nothing. And we've now all, actually 5 years ago today, I didn't even realize this was the day when the world shut down 5 years ago. It was March 13th when, well, the US anyway, a lot of the states in the US shut everything down and sent everybody home. So it's a little bit poignant that I'm having this conversation with you today. So that's really hitting me. Gosh, 5 years. Whew. Having a moment here. Okay. Whew. Wow. So anyway, back into outward facing Lauren. So anyway, we all went home, and I'm not only was I already working 12 to 15 hour days, but now I'm at home and I'm in a 1-bedroom condo where with an open plan, except for the bedroom, where I can see my desk from my couch and I can see my couch from my desk, and my laptop fits on my desk and in my lap, not surprisingly. So now I'm working all the time. And for the whole month of March in 2020, I'm working all the time. My clients from my side gig are panicking because they don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on either. My internal clients, which are the employees that I worked with at the time, were panicking from an employment perspective. We're panicking from how do I work with my direct reports? How do I work with my manager? I don't want to bother them at home, but we have to figure this out. And luckily we had the technology in place, but it was a very confusing and hard time. And ever the achiever, I started joining networking calls on this new platform, Zoom, that not a lot of people were using, but all of a sudden everybody was. And I joined a Zoom call where I was with a bunch of women in HR who ran HR departments and were departments of one. So they maybe were managing people as I was, but they weren't managing HR people. And so we all came into this room together, and it was international. The person who was running it was in England. And we all just kind of sighed in relief that we could look at each other and feel the exhaustion and the stress and just like be together in it. Now, the high achiever in me was certainly pleased in a very sort of sick way to learn that I was working the most hours before the pandemic started. And looking around this Zoom room and looking at my face, because at the beginning of Zoom, we're only looking at our own faces. About, I would say maybe a quarter of the people in the room were HR/coaches. So a lot of us had this like view of side gig, right? Of coaching as a side gig. Some people were certified in coaching, some people weren't. Some people were like me, where they had HR certifications and had done some good education on coaching, but hadn't gotten a certification. And we all looked really awful. We all looked really tired. We were these like beautiful, amazing, strong humans who were beaten down by what had just happened to the world. So I'm talking to these women and I say out loud for the first time, I would love to coach full time and like take that really seriously, which is a great idea. And then I followed that with, but I can't because, and I had excuses. I had reasons. I need a salary. I need benefits. I need the security of a job. I need, you can't make money coaching people. You know, all of these things that are in my brain and, you know, it's the figuring out, right, of how things are going to go for me because I've already decided what my truths are. So we're talking during this coaching or during this group HR call, and the woman who was leading that responds to what I said with, I mean, I left my job and I'm coaching full time and I'm making money. Another one raised her hand and she said, yeah, same. I voluntarily left my job like 3 months ago and I'm already making money. I'm not making as much as I was in my corporate job, but hopefully I will. And if not, I can go back to a corporate job. And it was like a light bulb went on. Maybe I could. So off I went to the not predictable path of getting my own coach, which in retrospect, I look at it and I'm like, Lauren, they were all telling you that you can do this. And all of them were coaches, or, you know, this quarter of them were coaches. They have coaches. And I'm sitting here and thinking, gosh, okay, so if I want to really become a coach, because I didn't consider myself real because I didn't have the certification, even though I had a bunch of the education, I'm going to have to go for my coaching certification. So I found a local acquaintance who I had had a conversation, or I had had a co-working relationship with several years before. And she had just posted that she got her coaching certification through the International Coaches Federation. And so I pinged her and I said, hey, do you mind if I have a chat with you? I would love to find out which certification program you went through, how much it cost, what the time commitment was. You know, I had my check boxes of tactical things. And it did not occur to me that coaching was available to me. When I reached out to her, and she of course said like, yeah, absolutely. If you want to become a coach, like, let's talk about it. It did not occur to me, even though I knew she had a coach in the first second of talking to her, it still did not occur to me that I was allowed to have a coach. And here's why. I am the helper. I am the hand raiser. I'm the figure outer. I am the I will do it-er. I am the person you come to. I shouldn't, wouldn't, couldn't need somebody else, first of all. If I am this helpful and this able to be strategic for everybody else, who's going to help me coach me? Because like, I figure stuff out. So that was part one. I know how to figure stuff out. Part two was, if I can't figure this out, no coach is going to be able to figure this out for me. So hyper-independent me thought, no coach is going to be able to figure this out for me. Hyper-independent me decided, if I can't figure this out, and this is point 2. So point 1 is I'm the person who helps people, right? I'm the hostess, as Monica Geller in Friends said. I am the person who helps people. Part 2 is if I can't help me, nobody can help me. That's a very poor me, like, please play your Satis violin. Nobody can help me. Because if I can't figure it out, and I could figure out how to temporarily run the marketing department, run the finance department, run the fundraising department, run 2 different program departments during my tenure at this one company while running HR and being the person who oversaw the meetings team and the technology stuff and right? If I could figure all of that out and I can help my employees and my clients sit with themselves to figure out what they want, and I can't sit with myself to figure out what I want, I am not figure outable. So it's this like weird martyrdom and like almost an egotistical, like, if I can't be the smartest about me, then nobody can figure me out. I learned that that was incorrect. And that was like such an important lesson for me. And here's how I figured it out. So I get on a phone call with this person who has been kind and generous enough to walk me through which program she went through, what the certification was like, how much it cost her, what her time commitment was. And I said to her, gosh, I would love to go and get that certification, but I'm going to really have to think about it because I am working 80 to 100 hours a week, and that's just not going to change. And she said, if you say so. It was such a non-judgmental and kind and plain, if you say so. And I was mad as hell. I was so mad at her. And in my mind, not wanting to be rude because she had just been generous with her time, in my mind, I wanted to rage at her and say, you don't understand. You're not a corporate person. You don't understand. And she wasn't a corporate person. The way we worked together was that she was providing a service to the company that I worked for. And I sat for a moment with that, and she was on the other end of the phone. So we weren't looking at each other because, again, early days of the pandemic, we were less inclined to get on video. And she said, if you say so. And I felt like the pause in between when I responded to her and when she said, if you say so, was like 45 minutes. It was probably 15 seconds. And I said, are you taking new clients? Because it was the first time that someone had come at me without me feeling defensive after the like blood boiling calmed down, right? That was a momentary reactionary, nobody understands me, I'm special moment. And that calmed down. And I realized that she knew something about me that I didn't know, that I didn't recognize. And I said, are you taking new clients? And she became my first coach. So here I had been coaching for 15 years, 14 years at this point. It had never occurred to me that somebody could ask me better questions about me than I could ask myself, or than I could be willing to ask myself, could ideate to ask myself. I just didn't have it in me to question me in a warm, comfortable way, the way I could with other people. And that, my hyper independent friend, is why you need to hire your own coach. My hyper independent helps everybody else, people pleases from here to eternity, doesn't set boundaries, knows that they need to figure out their career or their next step. These people, you people, are my people. You are my people. You are the people that I coach. typically the people I coach come to me because they are so tired. And I could not have been more tired in March of 2020. I could not have been more tired in March of 2020. And to start working with this other person who taught me how to sit quietly with me and my own stuff, who taught me how to take small pockets of time, the way that I taught other people to take small pockets of time to be with themselves, to have brainstorming time, to have time to notice the world around them, to have time to think about what they wanted and how they wanted to go after it, was so powerful. As I went on, I needed different coaches for different things. Some of my clients do that, and sometimes I can refer them to somebody. Sometimes my clients just stay with me, or sometimes they come and go. But my clients, the people that I partner best with, are the ones who have been solving their own problems this whole time. The ones who say, I don't need anybody. The former me, who finally went out and accidentally found my first coach. It doesn't have to be an accident to find your first coach. And I don't have to be your first coach. You can. I have somebody I'm talking to right now who's a prospective client who has had coaching before. She's looking for a different kind of coaching, a different level of coaching. She's up-leveling herself, and I do that. And what I want you to walk away with today, having watched this, is that hyper-independent does not mean alone. Hyper-independent doesn't mean lonely. Hyper-independent means you are good at a whole bunch of stuff, and nobody needs to hold your hand in order for you to get the stuff you know and the stuff you can pretty easily figure out done. Where hyper-independent people need help is in seeing outside of the beeline they're trying to make towards the next thing, especially when they don't even want that next thing. So if you are working too many hours or doing a leadership job that doesn't bring you any joy anymore, and you do not have the time or the brain space or the real capacity to look at yourself in an objective and supportive way, and I say objective and supportive on purpose because I can be your very supportive cheerleader and coach and be objective about the things you're telling me and the things that you're thinking about and the moves that you're making, and also be warm and in full support of you. And that's what you want in a coach. So it's your time to do with what you want. And that is not me saying we all have the same 24 hours. We don't. I live with chronic illness. Sometimes my 24 hours are shorter than other people's 24 hours. I don't have kids. Sometimes my 24 hours are way longer than other people's 24 hours. I don't have a family member or partner that I need to take care of who needs like 24/7 care. So my 24 hours are longer than somebody's 24 hours who needs that. I do a bunch of different stuff. I work, I have friends, I have some hobbies that I did not have at all when I was working in my corporate life, but here we are. And so I'm busier than some people too. I have more freedoms than some people. I have less freedoms than others. We all have a different set of 24 hours, but somewhere in your 24 hours, if you are in burnout and you're watching this and you're this hyper independent do-it-yourselfer and you're tired and you're out of ideas for how to make it better for yourself, and you feel like this is it, this is the career I chose, they pay me $100, $200, $300, $400,000 to do this very hard job. It's what I chose. If I leave, I'm going to have to start over. I'm not willing to start over, so I'm stuck here till I retire or die. You're allowed to have that. But if you're hyper independent and you're a high achiever, it's not what you want. You want joy. You started following all of this stuff for joy. And if your joy is money, have at it. I am not telling you to go out there and start over. I am not telling you to scrap all of the experience that you have and the leadership skills that you've built and the level you've achieved, and like go start over as a receptionist at a dental office so that you can work your way up in the healthcare field. If you want to move from corporate to healthcare, you don't have to give up all of your experience. You don't have to give up your salary in most cases. And so if money brings you joy, then let's get you the time to use that money. If time brings you joy, let's find you the time and make sure you have enough money to spend while you do this, while you have your time. If career is the center of your universe, as it was for me when I was working my 80 to 100 hours a week, and as it still is for me in a lot of ways, now that I work under 40 hours a week most of the time, that's okay too. Then let's bring you joy and passion and excitement and impact while you're doing that. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm so happy to have this particular live out here for you because I think it's so important, no matter what age or stage you are, to find joy and satisfaction and impact and enough money to make you happy. And that's what I'm here for. If you'd like to set up a time to chat with me, just go to my profile and there's a link to my links right near the top of the profile. You can set up a strategy call with me. No pressure. We have a good conversation about what you're looking for. It's an opportunity for you to sit with yourself in a space that is only about you and me potentially working together. And that's it for today. So tomorrow I'm going to come on and tell you my story of how I am sitting in this chair that I'm sitting in right now, which is in Lewis Beach, Delaware. And how I got to here from there, there being working 80 to 100 hours a week in a 1-bedroom apartment in a city I no longer loved, doing a job I no longer loved. So I'll see you tomorrow. If you have questions for me or anything you want me to address in any live, I'm going live a bunch, like almost every weekday this month at least, maybe longer because I really like these. Send me a DM. Tell me a topic that you want. And there's a link in every live that I post, that I pre-post, where you can sign up to get notifications about when I'm going live. I do not send out the daily ones this time of year when I'm going live all the time. You're not going to get an email from me every day, but I do go live on Tuesdays, every Tuesday. And that is when you'll get, and I'm starting to do some workshops. And so you'll get those emails as well to be able to sign up for a couple of free workshops that are coming up. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow.